Escape from Tarkov can be pretty unforgiving, and because there's no in-game UI or indicators as to who's who on the map, sometimes you find yourself more concerned that your friends are going to shoot you than the enemies. Chris, is that you shooting me?
Are you dead?
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
So in this video, I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks to help you and your friends stop killing each other and instead rage more at other things like lag and desync.
I can't shoot! What the fuck is going on? I see him! He's in the room!
He's dead!
He's dead! Somebody shot him!
Me!
What the fuck is going on?
I shot him!
I'm getting out! I'm getting out! I was right next to him.
The points I'm going to go over include knowing your callouts, formations, comms, listening, and helpful tips just in general for you and your squad to follow in game. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you have any tips that you find helpful for not shooting your friends in game. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. The first tip I'm going to go over is knowing your callouts. So you and your friends need to have callouts set for easily identifiable landmarkers on the map. These callouts can be anything from the extract locations or just large buildings that are easily recognizable on the map. You can even use the maps online, and a lot of those have certain callouts for certain areas on the map. On Reserve is a really good example of this. There's a lot of different chess pieces, all white and black, and you can reference the buildings based on the chess pieces. But the thing is that you and your friends don't need to follow specific callouts from anybody else. As long as when you say something, everybody knows what you're talking about is the most important thing. So pretty much you can have these names be made up, or you can use the ones from the maps. It doesn't matter really if they make sense. For example, on customs, the big red warehouse on the map, we always just call that Big Red. On woods, we have the large rock that overlooks the lower Woodyard area. We call that M4 rock because, you know, we once killed a guy that had an M4 on it when we first started playing. It doesn't matter if anybody else outside of our group of friends knows what it means. As long as when we say it, we know what we're talking about, that's a good call out. When everyone knows the reference, that's when it's a good call out. This is really important because the less time you and your friends spend communicating your location or an enemy's location, the better, and you'll have a lot better time coordinating your team around the map. Once you and your teammates have played a map enough and you know all the callouts and references on the map, you need to work on working together as a team and coordinating your formations. Me and my group of friends mainly have two kind of formations that we like to follow whenever we're trying to be tactical in a game. The first formation is when we're moving. I'll call this the 3-point line formation, I guess. Essentially, you're just going to have one person designated as point, and they're going to be in front at all times as you're moving. Another person will pretty much be designated as 6, and they'll be watching the rear end of this little train of people that you've got going on here. Everybody else in the middle will know who the front person is and who the rear person should be, and they'll just be scanning left and right as you move along to your next destination. If someone moves past the point, then they need to let the rest of the team know that they're point now. And the same goes for the 6. If somebody falls behind and they're now the last person in line, they need to communicate that they're now 6 in the group. This formation is really good from getting to point A to point B and not being confused about who's who on the map. This gives you and all your teammates a better idea of where everybody should be in your squad. And that way when you see an enemy approaching, you don't have to take that second to be like, oh, is that my friend or not? Okay, I need everyone to wiggle right now.
Okay, I'm wiggling. Fuck. Wiggling.
Instead, you can just shoot, and that gives you a really big advantage if you're walking into another group, or if somebody like comes off from the side or straight in front of you, you'll know immediately that it's an enemy and you won't have to wait. The second formation that me and my group of friends like to do is when we're holding. There's no set holding position because there's always going to be different situations in different areas for where you're at, but it's very simple, and yet somehow it tends to get messed up the most. Pretty much everybody is going to be holding a different angle or a different direction so that you can see enemies coming from any direction, and you all have to call out your holds.
Going left, hold that right.
We like to do this when someone's looting or healing or going to grab a quest item. That way everyone's holding a different corner and just waiting for contact if it comes. If you stop holding your angle because you need to reload or anything like that, you need to let your teammates know. That way they can adjust accordingly. Hold on, let me check the glass.
Yeah, I was just covering your other side.
Nothing.
Clear your left.
Some areas on the map are a lot easier to hold than others. A really good example of this is dorms on customs. Second story dorms is notoriously hard to hold. because there's a lot of different ways that people can come in. People can walk in from the first floor through the stairwell, they can walk in from the wall side up to the second story entrance, and they can walk in from the opposite end of the wall up in that second story entrance, or come in from third and then come down from third story through the stairwell as well. That essentially gives you 4 different entry points that you and your teammates need to hold. So if you have only 3 players, you can't possibly hold all the angles, especially if one of your 3 players is looting or doing something for a quest. On the other hand, third story on dorms is actually pretty easy to hold. Players can only come from 2 different entry points. They can come in from the fire escape outside, or they can come up the center stairwell. There's no other points that you actually need to hold as a team, so it's much easier to cover that as a squad. The next point your team needs to be focused on is keeping your comms clear. A lot of times you and your friends will be trying to communicate things and people will be talking, telling jokes, or just saying pointless things that don't actually add to any of the information that you need to gather from the raid. When you're talking on comms, you need to say only relevant things that you and your team need to know. You need to make sure that your statements are clear and concise. The quicker and more specific your statements are, the faster your teammates will be able to understand what you're saying and be able to adjust accordingly to help you out. I'm going through. One dead. One dead.
He's going to the backside.
Got you. He's in the back corner. Both dead. Both dead.
Back running.
Got you. Tell me when you come in the back. All right, you're clear.
Coming in right now.
You're clear. Both dead. Try to stay calm when you're in intense situations. A lot of times when you get frustrated or just flustered in general, or your adrenaline's pumping because you're taking bullets from every direction, it can make you tend to stutter or slip up your words a lot. So try to keep a cool head and just get the words out that you need to say, and only those. If one of your teammates or even you are having a lot of noise, like background noise from a fan, or your mom's asking you what you want from McDonald's, or so your dogs are barking, I recommend switching to push to talk just so that your teammates don't have to put up with that. Lastly, and most importantly, you and all your squad mates need to be good at one thing, and that's listening. All of the tips that I've mentioned before this have one major thing in common. They're all based on communication. If you or your teammates aren't listening, then none of the information that they say is passed, and it's all just pointless. Don't be that guy that shoots your teammates even after they just told you their location.
Oh, but we're about to walk in their view, don't you think?
Oh, wait, who's on the other side of those
Maybe.
tracks?
Other side? We're on the left side.
Yeah.
On left.
Some are on right. We're on right. You guys are on left. Oh, I'm dead.
Oh, you're on right?
Yeah, well,
You just said right.
Always try to keep an ear out and process anything your teammates say. That way there's no confusion and you don't miss any important information that you need to know. Playing with your friends and surviving and not killing each other really comes down to efficient communication and keeping a level head in the game. Other than that, I'll leave you off with some helpful tips just to keep in mind when you're playing with squads. For starters, get a good look at your teammates when you load in so you know kind of what they look like and what guns they're rocking. And if you see somebody that is, has a different gun or is wearing different clothing, then you know that's probably not your teammate and you can safely shoot at them. Another thing is, don't shoot head level past your teammates. Try to squat and lean beside them if you're shooting past them down a hallway or anything like that. This limits the chances of you one-tapping your friend from the back of the head on accident, which happens more often than you would think.
Oh shit! Oh! He's shooting us! Oh!
Another thing is, always communicate your movement. If you're at one position and you just told all your friends that you're at this one point, and then you move to another point and you don't say anything, all of your team is going to assume that you are still at that previous location, and if they see you, you are liable to get friendly fired. Also, don't block your pushing teammates' retreat path. If you're going up a stairwell or going through a doorway into a room, don't sit on your buddy's ass and just, go right behind him into the room. Give him a second, give him some room so that if he runs into contact, he can quickly retreat and get out of that situation. Otherwise, if you're right behind him, he's just going to get gunned down and pissed at you because you were blocking him. If you die in a raid, say what you know or what you learned in those last seconds of where you were getting shot, and then shut up. Nobody wants to hear you bitch about how you got one-tapped and that's such bullshit and the game's unfair, blah, 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 blah. Just say what you know and shut up. Nobody wants to hear it. And the last tip, like I mentioned before that me and my squads like to do when we're holding a certain position, try to only have one person in your team be in a vulnerable situation at a time. What I mean by that is like you're vulnerable when you're healing or when you're looting or like trying to find a quest item or something. That's when you're really likely to die from an enemy because you're not paying attention or you have to do something else. Try to only have one person doing that at a time. You don't want to have you and 3 other people looting the same body just to die to somebody throwing an F1 on top of you. Well, anyways, those are some tips that I've got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked any of the content. I've got more coming weekly and I do stream Monday through Thursday if you guys want to stop by and check it out. Till next time, that is. I'll see you guys later.